Bienvenidos! Welcome to Spain on a Fork. Today, we're making a very typical dish from north central Spain. We're talking asparagus with a creamy almond sauce. Now, usually when they make this dish, they use cardo instead of asparagus. Cardo is a root vegetable. It translates to thistle. Very hard to find outside of Spain. If you can find it where you live, please let me know in the comments box below. When I lived in the States, I couldn't find it in any supermarket. Anyways, that's why I'm using asparagus. So much easier to find it. In my opinion, it takes this dish to the next level. But in reality, it doesn't matter what vegetable you use here because the star is the creamy almond sauce. It's got a beautiful texture and an amazing flavor, folks. This recipe is very easy to make, comes together in about 20 minutes, and it's the perfect dish for the holiday season or any time of the year. First thing we're gonna do is wash a bundle of fresh asparagus under some cold running water. Now, to make this recipe, you wanna use the thicker stalks of asparagus versus the thinner ones, as it gives this dish a better texture. Once the asparagus are cleaned, I'm going to add them into a dishcloth, making sure they're all in a single layer, and pat them completely dry. And for the final step with the asparagus, I'm going to cut each one into 1-inch pieces. You want to discard about 2 to 3 inches from the end of the stalk, as it's got a tough texture. For the next ingredient, I'm going to grab about 1/4 cup of raw blanched almonds. The ones I'm using are Marcona almonds, but you can use whatever almonds you like. Add the almonds into a food processor, and we'll run the food processor on a low speed, just between 6 to 8 seconds. You don't want to pulverize the almonds, you just want them to be in little chunks. Moving on, I'm going to measure out a generous cup of milk. To veganize this recipe, you can substitute this for any plant-based milk you like. We'll also grab 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. And reserved, I have 3 cloves of garlic that I finely minced. Alright, let's start cooking up our dish. I'm going to grab a medium-sized fry pan and heat it with a medium heat. After heating the pan for about 2 minutes, I'm going to add in a generous tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil and add in the pieces of asparagus. And mix the asparagus around with that olive oil. The secret here, make sure they're all coated in that olive oil, and you don't have to mix this continuously. Just get in there about every 30 seconds or so. That way they don't burn and they all cook evenly. About 4 minutes after adding the asparagus into the pan and they're developing a light golden fried color, they should be perfectly cooked. You don't want to overcook them, otherwise they lose their beautiful texture. I'm going to season them with a little sea salt and some freshly cracked black pepper. We'll give this a quick mix and transfer the asparagus into a bowl. For the next step, let's make our creamy almond sauce. I'm going to grab a fry pan, place it on the heat. Once again, this is a medium heat, and add in 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. After heating the olive oil for 1 minute, I'm going to add in our chopped almonds and our minced garlic. And mix these ingredients around with that extra virgin olive oil. You want to make sure you mix this continuously, that way nothing burns and everything cooks evenly. After about 90 seconds, and those almonds are lightly toasted and those garlics are nice and fragrant, you don't want to overcook these ingredients. I'm going to add in our 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour and continue to mix this together. We are making a roux here, so we're going to go for about 2 minutes. This is enough time to cook that flour. That way the flavor of the flour doesn't overpower the sauce. After about 2 minutes, I'm going to add in half of the milk into the pan and start whisking this together. We're trying to achieve a creamy texture here, so it's very important to whisk this continuously, otherwise you take the risk of that milk curdling. Once the sauce has thickened up, I'm going to add in the remainder of the milk and we're gonna continue to whisk this just between 2 to 3 minutes, once again on a medium heat. We're looking for a creamy sauce here that's not too thin, but not too thick. After 3 minutes, and you end up with a beautiful creamy sauce. Once again, you don't want it too thin or too thick. I'm gonna season it with a little sea salt and some freshly cracked black pepper. We'll give this a quick whisk, that way those seasonings are evenly mixed. And add the cooked asparagus back into the pan. And once again, we're gonna go for about 2 to 3 minutes here just to heat those asparagus through, and also it gives them a chance to absorb all these beautiful flavors. After about 3 minutes, this dish is perfectly cooked. You don't want to go any longer, otherwise that sauce is gonna get too thick. I'm gonna remove the pan from the heat and transfer everything into a serving dish. And check it out, our Spanish asparagus with creamy almond sauces then. You saw how easy it was to put this together. Once again, a typical dish that's served in north central Spain, Madrid, Navarra, Aragon, Soria, Rioja, and usually during the holiday season. Let's give this a try and see how it turned out. Today, I know we're in for a treat. This smells fabulous. Here we go. So good, so simple, but so good. But first things first is the texture of those asparagus. You don't want to overcook them. That way they don't lose their texture. They are so good. And for the flavors, you have that almond sauce with the garlic again. So simple, but so good. And like I told you earlier, this dish is typically served during the holidays in north central Spain. It's easy enough to make and the flavors are so good. You should enjoy it all year round. Don't limit yourself just to the holidays for incredible Spanish dishes like this. Really quick before I go, a shout out to a couple of my patrons, Jim Owens and Joan Killico. Again, guys, thank you so much for being patrons of Spain on a Fork. You know how much I appreciate you. For the rest of you, if you're not with me on Patreon, consider becoming one. It helps with ingredients and equipment to continue making videos like this. You'll find my Patreon link in the description box below and iCard above. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button. Leave me a comment below, and if you're not subscribed, smash that subscribe button. Till the next time, hasta luego.